Hello and welcome to Little Things with Amber Albee Swenson. We are continuing our series on singleness with an episode that I'm calling Single on God's Time. I'm joined today with a very special guest. Her name is Dorothy Schlueter. So thank you for joining me, Dorothy.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you. We have never met before, so
No.
This is our first time. So
Yes.
We're going to get to know each other a little bit.
Okay.
So Dorothy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where have you worked? What have you done? Where do you live? That type of thing.
Okay. I grew up in the Milwaukee area. I worked, I'm a speech pathologist by profession, and I worked 39 years at Marquette University teaching in the speech pathology program. And that was a wonderful experience. After my second husband passed, my in-laws had bought a place in Florida. And so I went down to visit, and I bought a place in Florida. And that was in 2011. And now I'm a Florida resident, and I'm going to move down there full time.
Okay, hold on. Where in Florida?
Fort Myers.
I
That
fly
rings
to
a
Fort
bell.
Myers all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
I have
good.
a friend who had a home down there. She's a snowbird, and she lets us use their house every now and then. So
My
we've gone down there
goodness.
about 5 times.
Okay,
I love
that's
Fort Myers.
wonderful.
Wait
I
a
love Fort
second.
Myers.
Did your house have any damage from Hurricane Ian?
No, I'm in a condo, and it's hurricane proofed. It met the code.
Oh,
There was absolutely no damage. The
wow.
only thing, the power was out so long that and then that hot, wet air was in your unit.
Mold.
My washer rusted out. So I had to get a new washer and dryer. So that was kind of peripheral damage. And a couple light things blew out when the power came back on. But that's all. There was no external damage. No, we survived very well, but we're 40 minutes inland from the Gulf.
Mhm.
So that makes a difference. But there was still a lot of damage in Fort Myers, in the
Oh,
city
yeah.
of Fort Myers. And no, we escaped all that.
So when are you moving down permanently?
As soon as I sell my house here. So
Okay.
I have no idea what the timetable is going to be.
Okay.
But that's for health reasons. That climate is much better for me.
Yeah. Oh,
And
from snow to sunshine. Come on.
Yeah,
No
I had
argument with me.
really, it's kind of my happy place, and I have really
Yeah.
good friends down there.
Oh.
So, and my sister-in-law, brother-in-law go down. They're snowbirds, so they go down. So I'll have them there half of the year, and so yeah, it's a big move, but I think I'm ready.
I'm ready, and I'm a lot younger than you are, and I'm ready.
Ready for sunshine every day, yeah. And initially, I bought it for an investment, which turned out to be really wise, and I rented it in season for 8 years. So
Wow.
I was in and out, but I didn't actually live there.
Yeah.
So that's changed now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So our series is on singleness, and you have unfortunately been widowed twice. So I want to get into that a little bit. Talk to me about your first marriage. How long were you married? How old were you when your first husband died? Just give us kind of the background.
My first husband was Harry Wood, and he was from England.
How did you meet a man from England?
We lived in the same apartment building, and we had known each other, but no big thing. Then his mother came to visit from England, and we met at the washers, and she really, really liked me. And she kind of said, "What's the matter with you? What's wrong with the lady in number 3?" So then we started going out together. And I have to say, my mother-in-law in England was always one of my biggest supporters. So,
That's amazing.
really nice thing. Yeah.
So did you go back and forth all the time?
Yes, we did. And I still have a niece there who I just adore. And I had a niece here who was in Virginia who passed, but we were so close. So but her kids now keep in touch with me. So I have family from the first marriage as well.
Yeah. That's
but
wonderful.
Not anywhere close. Yeah. We were married just over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And yes. And when my husband passed, I was 62, almost 63 years old.
And did it come as a shock? Was it expected? Was he
It
suffering from an illness or
it was expected. He had brain surgery and a massive stroke that followed, and so he never really recovered. So it was a long period where he was really paralyzed and struggling. So it wasn't a shock. It was just a long, prolonged illness.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you have
Yeah.
children?
No, we didn't.
Okay. So, after that first episode of becoming a widow, you must have gone
Mhm.
through quite a few changes.
Mhm.
You were married for
Mhm.
quite a long time. So,
Yes.
what were some of the things that you remember thinking, man, this is so hard? Or what are some of the changes that really stuck out to you?
Well, I was still working because I was 62 going on 63. I think the 2 big things were that I was alone,
Mm,
and, you go home after work and you're alone,
yeah.
and also that now you're in charge of making all the decisions, and that's just a huge responsibility when you've been sharing it for 30 years. So I
Hmm.
think that's what stands out. I had to figure out where I was now.
Yeah. So, what did you find helped you get through the loneliness that first time?
Well, I was still working, so I was out and
Yeah.
with people all day. So the evenings were the loneliest, but I was busy, and it was just I don't know. It just got a little bit better with time.
Okay. So
Uh,
how much time passed before you got married again?
uh, 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long did your second marriage last?
Well, that's very unfortunate. It lasted 2 years and 9 months. My second husband was David Schlueter, my last name now, and he grew up in this area. We were in grade school together, so we both grew up in this Milwaukee area together. And my second husband was very healthy. We both were when we married. So we
Yeah.
had a lot of plans. We were retiring, both of us, and, for travel and so forth. And he got a form of cancer that just went very fast. So I knew in January they said he had a year to live, but he only lived 7 months after
Wow.
that. So it was quick and irreversible.
Man, I'm so sorry. So, did you notice a difference? Because here you were alone again from the first
Hmm.
time to the second
Right.
time, or was it much the same?
Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, the grieving was there, the same.
Yeah.
Uh, and I wasn't working, so I lacked that structure. So I think
Right.
that might have been a little harder.
Mm,
Um, and it's like, well, here I am again, uh,
right.
unexpectedly. And we had plans, for travel and different activities, and that was gone, just gone.
Did you end up doing some of those things by yourself? Did you end up traveling at all?
Not right away.
Yeah.
We were signed up for a Holy Land tour,
Oh,
and then he passed, so I, canceled out. But then I went 2 years later with a friend.
okay.
Um, yeah, actually, my sister-in-law's sister, and so that I was determined to do that, but it was not the original plan.
Right, right, but somehow you were able to sort of pivot and
Yeah, yeah,
find somebody to
yeah.
do stuff with. Have you found
Mhm.
that's been a key to sort of keeping the loneliness at bay?
I think so. I like to be busy. I like to be out of the house, and all that helps. So if I would be really sad or really depressed, I would say, just do something, anything, get out. And that would help. I suppose it was a distraction,
Yeah.
but it helped. Um, alter the mood.
Mhm. Are there still things that are uncomfortable or hard? How many years has it been now since your second husband died?
Oh, he died in '09,
Okay,
so
so it's
we're
been a
looking
while.
at yeah, it's been a while.
Are there some
Um,
things that are still hard and uncomfortable, or
it's
have you kind of
still
adjusted?
I've adjusted, but what's hard, I think, is, like, since then, I've had 2 major surgeries, and he's not there to be with me.
Right,
And, your plan when you're older and you marry is you're gonna be there for each other,
right.
and that was gone. So, I had to rely on friendship of other people, and that you feel that. Um,
Yeah.
so, that was hard, but, I think having real good Christian friends who are there for
Mhm.
me has helped tremendously. And, through my second husband, now I have a sister-in-law, brother-in-law. I have 2 granddaughters and 3 great-grandbabies. So I
Oh,
feel like God gave me a family through my second marriage, and that's real important to me.
wow, that's really wonderful. Where
Yeah.
have you found your Christian friends? How are some of these friends that have been lifelong or, like you said, that second marriage provided this family that you didn't have
Mhm.
before.
That I
So,
didn't have.
yeah,
It
where have you
it's a
found your
it's a
friends?
combination, it's a combination. I've had lifelong friends from work,
Mhm.
um, well, not lifelong, but from work,
Yeah.
and then, of course, the new family that I got through marriage. And then I had some family friends, well, relatives left from my first marriage, but they're all gone
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's kind of diminishing as
Yeah.
you get older that you lose friends that are even younger than yourself.
What are some things that have happened along the way with either the first or the second spouse dying? What are some things that people do without even thinking sometimes that maybe hurt you or even offend you?
The only thing I can think of is that they don't understand that grief goes on for a long time. And
Mhm.
so, like, say they give you a year, and then you're like, "Well, I don't understand why, this is bothering you, or why are you feeling sad today?" So I think they don't understand that everyone grieves in their own way, on their own time. And, but they just didn't know.
Mhm.
And I think oversimplifying your grief, well, you just need to get out more, or you need to, go
Yeah.
shopping or do something nice for yourself. So, again, they're meaning to be helpful, but it's not really helpful.
Yeah, and you can't really make sense of grief. That's what I'm understanding from
Right.
my mother-in-law has been a widow for 18 years. And I
Uh-huh.
remember her saying the 7th year was the hardest of them. And there
Yeah.
was no rhyme or reason.
No.
Nothing certain, happened
Right.
that 7th year, but it was just all of a sudden that year, it was every
Yeah.
day was really hard for her to get through. And like you said, why the 7th year? Why now? Why can't you, pick one foot up and keep going? And
No.
she didn't know. She didn't know why.
It's not a line, like you start here and it's bad and then it's better, better, better. I think it's almost, not cyclical, but, you'll be fine and then it'll kinda hit you again.
Mhm.
So, it just takes a long time to work through all that till you kinda steady out. And then the sadness will never go away, but you kinda become more steady in, in your daily routines and friendships and, you know, so I yeah, if you've not had a loss, it's hard. People don't really understand that,
Yeah.
and I don't think they mean to be unkind, but they just haven't been there.
And from what I've gathered, every loss is different. It's a
Yes,
very
it
different
is.
thing if you
Yes.
lose a child. Very
Oh,
different thing.
yes,
Very
absolutely.
different thing if you lose a sibling. Some people lose a sibling in a car accident when they're, 20
Right.
years old or something. That's a very different thing. And a spouse
Yes.
is a very, very different thing.
Yes, it is.
So
Yes.
it is so important that we don't minimize or like you
Mhm.
said, just sort of
Mhm.
just get over it. Come on, just do this.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah.
mentioned that going out, getting out of the house was one way that you coped. Are there other things that you did that you noticed that really
Um,
sort of helped alleviate some of that pain when you felt that grief coming back on you?
oh, I don't know. I've always been the kind of person who has to get out of the house, so I'm
Mhm.
not sure that, that was a new thing after my grief. It was just the way I've always been. Like, I
Yeah.
like to be out and about. But, things that help, yeah, I think, your perspective changes. At first, I was so stunned after 2 years and 9 months that
Yeah.
here I am again. I was just stunned. And I think I was talking to my friend Amy. I think my feelings were hurt that God did this.
I
Like,
was wondering
I
if
know
you were
you
kinda
love me.
angry.
No, not angry. My feelings were hurt, actually. I
Yeah.
know you love me, but you did this. You brought this person into my life and then just took them away. And so that was part of grieving. I think that not that I ever questioned that God was entitled to do this. That
Right.
wasn't the issue. So I wasn't angry, but I was confused and
Mhm.
bewildered. Like, why? What was the purpose of this
Right.
all to go through this? But now that it's many years and I'm older too, looking back, I can see a lot of things that God brought about that wouldn't have happened had I not, number one, married David, and number two, then been widowed. So, growing close to my granddaughters, being a big part of the great grandbabies being born, I can see, and I might mention too that I think we both changed each other's lives for the better. So that I can see
Tell me in what
God's hand
ways?
in that. Um, well, my granddaughters, th- first of all, let me just say their life has been, a little difficult,
Mhm.
and they thought the world of my husband, their grandpa David, and then we bonded, and
Yeah.
then more than if David and I were still a couple,
Mhm.
so that I began to spend more time with them, and that led to a stronger bond.
Mhm. I know exactly how that is because that's exactly
Yeah.
what happened with my father-in-law. My father-in-law and
Hmm.
I were very, very close. In
Yeah.
fact, to the point that I always went to him immediately when I came to the house. I always went to him,
Uh
sat
huh.
by him, talked to him. We
Uh huh.
bonded, we just saw
Yes.
eye to eye. We were very much the same, like, energetic,
Uh huh.
and when he died, I almost had to get to know my mother-in-law in a way that
Did
I never
before.
had before
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I had always gone to him. So it was very similar.
The
And
whole
you're right.
dynamic changes, right?
Yeah, and it is a gift. It is a gift to
Hmm.
get,
It is a gift.
to
And
know someone.
drawing close to my David's brother and wife,
Yeah.
my brother in law's sister in law, that was a real positive for me.
Yep.
And we're still real, real close. So,
That's awesome. How
yeah.
has your faith sustained you in all this? What part has faith played?
I think I always like to think of the big picture. And in the big picture, um, these things happen. It's not unusual to lose people. It's the way
Right.
it is. Um, that because of his faith, his strong faith, I know he's okay.
Mhm.
So, at one time I said, okay, did I really want to keep him here longer suffering, or did I want to let go? But that was
Right.
a while later. I couldn't
Yeah.
say that right away. But I think knowing that he's okay. And I'll see him again. That's been a
Mhm.
big factor.
Yep. Yeah, and death is a part of life, unfortunately.
Mhm. It is. It is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we all have to come to terms with. It just comes close to us every now and then, and we start
Mhm.
remembering that this isn't our home and
Yeah.
that we're living as citizens somewhere else. But we can go a long time forgetting that until
Yes.
death
Uh,
strikes us in the face again, and then we
and
have to
then
remember.
right.
What role did the people in your church play throughout these
Oh,
experiences?
I don't know. They were very kind. Everyone was kind,
Mhm.
um, and tried to be helpful or, tried to be there. Um, pastor was very kind and encouraging. He felt he brought us together because we met in church. Well,
Oh.
actually, we had gone to school together, but then all the years in between, we lost track. So he kind of thought he brought us together in Bible class, and then and then it was over. So I think they were very sympathetic. Um, I can't really say because my friends outside the church were likewise very uh,
Mhm.
caring.
Mhm.
So I don't know that my faith made it different. I don't know that my church group made it different.
Okay. That's good to know. Dorothy, I know that you had mentioned earlier that, there's no timeline to grief and that sometimes people had said things like, you just have to get over this. Um, One of the things that came out when I interviewed my friend Rhoda, who's been single her whole life long, she mentioned that, holidays were a time that it was nice when other people noticed that she was alone
Mhm,
and maybe did something. Are there other
mhm.
things that friends of widows could keep in mind to help ease the burden at all?
Well, that's a very good point. We didn't talk about holidays, but that they can be rough. One thing I found very helpful, where, for example, I called my insurance agent, and because of all the changes we had to make, and he said, "I wish I had the words to say to you to make it better, but I don't. So what can I do to help you?"
Oh,
I
wow.
thought that was wonderful. That was wonderful. And I think friends who just are with you, just sit with you or listen or just are there for you. They don't have to say a lot. They can't fix it.
Mhm.
And I think what was so great was he acknowledged he couldn't fix it,
Yeah.
but he said, "But I can help you other ways." And I think that means a lot. People that are there to help you, or um, even just on practical matters. Oh, well, I know a good handyman. I can give you his
Mhm.
number, things like that.
That's a beautiful thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so if the stats are to be believed,
Hmm.
most of us are gonna end up to be widows because
Right.
women tend to outlive men.
Mm.
Um, do you have any advice for
I
younger women
do.
in terms of preparing?
I do because obviously I know a lot of widows, and just seeing in my family women that became widowed. Um, I think I was very blessed because I didn't marry real young. So I had been independent for a good number of years. So I knew how to take care of things, I knew how to manage money. Um, so as my husband became incapacitated, um, and then ultimately died, I was pretty well positioned to know financially what to do,
Mhm.
um, how to take care of the house we lived in, just simple practical things that you have to take care of: your house, your car, your taxes. That it was totally up to me now. So I think women really need to be more savvy, maybe about their finances, and many are, some aren't.
Mhm.
About if they have a house to maintain, what does that all entail? And I think not to be afraid to ask for help. I think we can't assume that they have kids living next door that are going to run over and help. So I think, getting help with your taxes, getting a handyman, getting someone for financial management. And then I think it's still hard knowing that you're totally responsible for yourself.
Mhm.
That's a big thing. Um, and again, I don't have children, so that might be different, but I do feel very responsible for myself and keeping up and knowing what's going on and being wise about things. So I think the more prepared women are to be independent, which sounds counterintuitive, but the more independent they're prepared to be before they have to be,
Right.
um, the more knowledge they have, it's going to make it easier. Not the grief and the missing, but just the day-to-day living.
Mhm. Did both of your husbands have, like, funeral plans and you knew where you were gonna bury him and what you were gonna do and all that?
Um, no,
Did
no.
that fall on
My
you then?
Yes, yes, it did. Then after my first husband died, I didn't think I would marry again. So then we bought a double plot. I got the stone with my name on it. And
Of
then,
course.
uh, and then, so then when I married again and my second husband died, I actually managed to get a plot next door. So we're kind of in a row. It's kind of comforting to me.
There's nothing wrong
And
with that.
no, no, but it did fall on me both times to do all the planning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that might be just worth saying it's good to have a conversation. I know several women whose husbands have died unexpectedly, and they hadn't
totally
talked about where
stunned,
they were gonna be buried
right? That I didn't
or
have that. Yeah,
yeah, or what they
yeah,
wanted done, or if did they wanna be cremated or buried or
exactly. Yeah.
and it's probably never too early to start having those conversations, I suppose.
I find, especially with my first husband, he didn't want to talk about it at all.
Okay.
Or, like financially. Well, there was just the two of us, so that was pretty simple. But he didn't want to talk about it or make any arrangements. Um, so I just did it. My second husband, I knew wanted to be cremated,
Mhm.
and so I did that. But he's also buried in a plot,
Mhm.
So
So are your friends mostly I know you have your grandchildren and your great-grands and that type of thing, but are your friends, the people you talk
Mhm,
to, hang out
mhm.
with, are they mostly widows or you do a lot of the multi-generational?
It's mixed. It's a
Okay.
mix. Yeah, some are divorced, some are widowed, some, 1 or 2 never married, it's and some are, married for many years.
Mhm.
So it's a mix.
Yeah, I just know with one of my other interviews, she had mentioned a woman who had been widowed only for a year that she found a lot of comfort in the first year just in being with other widows who kind of knew and
Mhm,
understood what she was
mhm.
going through. Did you find the same thing initially or you didn't really need that?
Initially, when my first husband died, I was 62 and working. I really didn't know a lot of widows.
I suppose.
But as I've gotten older, the second time I was widowed, I was, well, what was I? I can't think. I was older anyway. So then there were more widows that I knew. And now I know a lot of the women are, most
Mhm.
of the women I know are widows.
Mhm.
So that changed as I got older. And but initially I didn't really know widows. I was working, everybody was married or looking to get married or, you know, divorced or single. Um,
I've I've known many widows the last 10 years or so. I tend to have a lot of older friends, and so,
mhm,
I have quite a few friends who are widows, and I've learned a lot from watching their life
mhm.
and seeing how they depend on each other, but I've also been very inspired by their faith and just the
Mhm.
quiet stillness that they don't say it doesn't hurt,
No,
but
it'll always hurt.
they more or less say, "I don't have a lot of options. I just have to go through the hurt
Yeah,
and trust
yeah,
that God has a plan and a purpose
yeah.
and that he will take care of me."
Mhm,
And that's
mhm.
kind of where you live throughout your days.
One thing, and I said this to a friend, I said, "I don't think I'll ever be as happy as I was, like, married, and especially with my second husband, but I feel content now, and I think
Okay.
that's a kind of happiness. It's not the woohoo, we're having so much fun kind of thing, or we're taking this big trip. It's more like a contentment, and that's a form of happiness, I think, too.
Mhm.
And
That's
at my
beautiful.
age, you don't I mean, I'm still out and about a lot, but you don't have that driving need to, you know, just be go 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 all the time.
Mhm.
You're more settled.
Yeah, I suppose. You've had many
Mhm.
years now to sort of adjust to this and
Right.
realize that this life is fleeting and it's full of perils and
Oh yeah.
heartaches,
Oh yeah.
and
Hmm.
there's a better life coming, and your
For sure.
husbands are already enjoying it, so
Yep. For sure. Absolutely.
that's a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for your time and for, just giving us something to think about, mull over. I certainly have been taking notes from several of my widow friends who tell me
Hmm.
to get things. I actually had a widow friend, my good neighbor, who has been my neighbor for 26 and a half years. She just sold her house 2 years after her husband
Hmm.
died, and before she left, she gave me a list of things I needed to get in order. So, things like not just you think just the will, you think if you've got a will that you're good, and
Yes.
she's like, "No, you need to know passwords, and you need bank things," and
Oh yeah.
she gave
Yeah.
me a whole beautiful list, and I, of course, have none of them done, so it was very nice of her to have this list and to give it to me to, should the unexpected happen, to
Sure.
at least be a little bit more prepared than you would be if
Hmm.
you were caught totally off guard.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I agree. I think you need to be more, I don't know what's the word. I
proactive.
hate to say, yeah, proactive is a good word. I think even before, I mean, just as you age, you need to say, hey, what do I need to keep track of? What do I
Mhm.
need to, know as things keep changing? Um,
And what a blessing, not just for you, if you do
mhm.
that, but for your family and for other people.
Mhm.
My uncle
Mhm.
died unexpectedly just a couple weeks ago, and, when my cousin went into his room,
Yeah.
he had everything. Just I mean, as organized and beautiful, like, do this, do this, do this, do this, and God knows how many years he had it
Yeah.
like that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
what a beautiful thing to whoever's left over, to pick up the
That's
pieces that you
right.
can just
That's
say, "Oh, here's where the funeral home is. Here's the number to this. Here's the"
yeah, I've got that all handled, and I feel that I don't want to leave a mess behind for people to
Yeah.
pick up on. And I think I know after my first husband died, I prearranged my funeral
Mhm.
because, again, I didn't know that I would marry again or whatever.
Yeah.
So I prearranged my funeral. I had the cemetery plot with my name on, and I just I like to feel that. That I'm not leaving something behind that people are going to have a real hard
Yeah.
time with,
Yep.
because I was negligent. And I think that's where it gets back to what's hard. I
Mhm.
feel responsible, very responsible for myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm on my funeral 2.0. I had
Are
planned my
you?
funeral I planned my funeral 10 years ago, and now I'm like, "Oh, I don't want that song anymore. Definitely not that song. We're
It's
doing a
funny.
different one."
It's so funny you say that because I did the same thing. My church wanted to know the hymns. Okay, so
Yeah.
I give the list of hymns and I go, oh, no, no, I like this one better. So I probably changed it 3 or 4 times. And my pastor would just laugh at me and say, oh, yeah, that was a good call. Everyone has that one. Good call. And I said, this is it. Final. I'm not even going to look at it again because I keep changing
Never
my
say
mind.
never, Dorothy.
Yeah,
Trust me.
never say
Everything I say
never.
never
And,
to.
and I'm thinking, I know my dad said to me before he passed, and we were so close. He said, do whatever you want for my funeral. I won't be here. And
Yeah.
I think about that. It's true. I won't be here. I need to let go of a lot of stuff even now, like
Thank you for
don't
saying
obsess
that.
don't obsess over who's going to get what of your stuff because it doesn't matter. It
You're
really
right.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good advice. I appreciate
Mm.
that a lot.
Mhm.
Thank you, Dorothy, for your
Well,
time.
thank you. Thank you for asking me.